you kind of come in here looking for He-Man, and this is not a show about He-Man, and that's kind of a bummer. All right, so I'm not going to do any complaining about how woke this show is or how they replace male leads with female leads or replace nationalities or anything like that. I'm going to be talking about Masters of the Universe Revelations, just my honest thinking about the show. Welcome back to the DL Jones Show. I'm your host, DL Jones. Now, Masters of the Universe Revelation was just released on Netflix about a day or so ago. This is the show that Kevin Smith has been talking about for the past couple of years. He's the showrunner of the show. I think he wrote the first episode, and there were another cast of writers that wrote, each episode had different writers. Now, this show, this season, the first season, has been broken down, as far as I know, it's been broken down into two parts. The first part, which contained 5 episodes, was the one that was released Friday, and that's what I've watched so far. I've watched all 5 episodes, and to be honest with you, the short story is, I like the show. It was a pretty good show. I know if you look online right now and do a search for it, it's hard to find any actual reviews of the show because so many people have been complaining about the controversy surrounding, what Kevin Smith has said prior to the show being released and everything. But I'm not going to get in on all of that. I'm going to be just talking about what I think of the show. Before I continue on, if you like to see more videos and stuff about movie reviews, TV show reviews, Netflix, in the theater, whatever, make sure you click the subscribe button down below. I always post a lot of videos. I try to do at least 1 video weekly, sometimes 2 or 3. But go ahead and subscribe to this channel, the DL Jones Show, and make sure you give it a thumbs up, a like, so this video could get shown to more people. All right, so I was a He-Man fan from back in the day. I used to watch the cartoon. I had the toys and stuff. I had my little He-Man and the Battle Cat and all of that kind of stuff. I was a big fan of He-Man back in the day. I wouldn't say I was a super fan. I probably haven't watched an episode of the actual cartoon since that time frame that it was released. And I can't, I remember watching it, but I don't remember a whole lot about He-Man. All I remember is that it was kind of corny. Now I'm watching this show. Of course, they're making a new show. I'm excited about it. And I sit down and I watch the first episode and it was awesome. You got He-Man, the art, as far as the art and animation is a lot better than what I remember of the previous show, like the 89 show. You got He-Man, I have the power and all of this kind of stuff. And he's going out there, he's kicking. But he almost, to me, and I don't remember it being like this in the 89 cartoon, but he almost seemed like a Superman type character. He almost seemed like really overpowered when he had his scene in there. But then the thing happens, and this is the thing that everybody complains about, is at the end of the first episode, He-Man dies. He dies, and for the most part, the show is not a He-Man show anymore. It is focused on the character Teela. Okay, so let's take a step back. For a minute, I want you to close your eyes for a minute, right? I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to wipe He-Man from your mind. I want you to wipe Masters of the Universe from your mind. Just forget all about this, and I'm going to tell you this synopsis. And I want you to tell me what you think of this particular synopsis in the comments below. So now, okay, so in this synopsis, there's a magical world, a magical realm in a far, far universe, far, far away. And this realm is, a very magical and powerful realm, but the magic that runs this realm, that provides all the magic in the whole realm, provides life, provides everything that's good, power and everything else. This magic all comes from a very special source. It's a very special source. It's hidden. Not many people actually know where the source is, but the people that do know where the source is, they, spend their whole lives protecting this source because there are bad people that want to take control of this source, So to protect this source, you generally have a person that is always on 24-hour guard of this source. This person is a powerful wizard. And then you have a champion. And this is a person that is a typical townsperson, but he can call on part of that power to become powerful. And he comes as a champion whenever needed to help protect this source. Well, one of the villains that always tried to get this source, try to take this source, this magical power source, try to take control of it for themselves. This one battle, they finally succeed in getting to it, and they crack the source. They crack the source. They can take control of the magical source that runs the whole universe, that runs the whole family. And by doing so, he actually kills the champion, kills the wizard that guards the source, and pretty much erase all of the magic from the world, you know. So now the point of this particular story or movie is that the new head of security for the kingdom is out on a quest to try to bring this magic back, to try to find the pieces and put them back together so she can restore the magic of this land and bring everything back to normal. What do you think about that? That sounds good, doesn't it? I mean, that alone sounds good. And that is basically the plot of the first 5 episodes of Masters of the Universe. The only problem is that, you know, in my synopsis, in my, you know, fairy tale synopsis that I said, He-Man is the champion that gets killed at the very beginning of the show. So the whole rest of the show is based on Teela, who is, if you remember her from the old series, she's the woman that was, you know, she was like Adam's guardian. Prince Adam is an alter ego of He-Man. You know, when he's a normal person, you know, he was Prince Adam. Well, she was appointed to be his guard, you know, his bodyguard, his protector. You know, she didn't know he was He-Man or anything. And at the beginning of this series, she gets promoted to Man-at-Arms, which is basically like the head of security. You know, Man-at-Arms is a character from the old He-Man show, and he's kind of retiring, and he's passing on the mantle to Teela, who she gets promoted to Man-at-Arms. Well, once He-Man is killed, once Skeletor, of course, defeats them, you know, actually both Skeletor and He-Man both gets killed. And this happens in the very first episode. Once he gets killed, the whole rest of the series is based on Teela trying to restore the magic. She's going across the universe. She's trying to pick up the pieces. She's trying to put things back together, trying to restore the magic to eternity. Now, looking at it like that, this is actually a pretty good show. You know, I enjoyed it. I think the storyline was good. I think a lot of the characters were good. A lot of things happened in this show that from a long time ago, you know, without having He-Man, without having Skeletor, without having the 2 main, big, larger-than-life heroes, you know, it gave room for a lot of the other characters to kind of be fleshed out a little more. We learned more about some of the other villains, and of course more about Teela, and you know, just a lot of the villains. Man-at-Arms, you know, we know more about him, and they just really fleshed out those characters a little bit more. That made it a little bit more interesting. The only problem is that, you know, you kind of come in here looking for He-Man, and this is not a show about He-Man, and that's kind of a bummer, you know. So, but you know, if you can get over that, if you can get that out your mind and just look at it for what it is, just look at the show for what it is, which is sort of like Teela's arc, Teela trying to restore magic to eternity. Eternia, or whatever the name of that world is that they live in. She's trying to restore magic. She's going through missions and steps to try to piece together the things that she needs to piece together to restore magic, to bring everything back to normal. You know, if you look at it that way, it's a pretty decent cartoon. You know, it's decent on its own, you know. And a lot of the complaints you see online is people that's just being upset because not only the fact that He-Man is not really in the show, but because when people first caught wind of it, Kevin Smith took to Twitter, you know, talking, and he basically lied about it. You know, he kind of tried to mislead people to make them think that that wasn't the case. The show comes out and it was the case. So now everybody's upset. So that's why you see, like, if you look on Rotten Tomatoes, you see the audience score is like 24% or something like that. The critic score is pretty high. It's in the 90s, which if you look at, if you know anything about how Rotten Tomatoes work, it doesn't necessarily mean that this show is rated at 94 or 92 or whatever it is. 90, that score is just how the percent of critics that recommended that show. So if you want, I mean, I got a whole video explaining a little bit more about how to try to get an understanding on Rotten Tomatoes. And if you want to, go ahead and check check the link right there. You know, I'll put a link there so you can go back and check that. It's pretty good if you're not quite sure how to understand the scores you see on Rotten Tomatoes. But yeah, I pretty much like the show, but I can't say that I wasn't disappointed. You know, the whole time I'm watching the show, watching the season, you know, 5 episodes, the whole time I'm watching it, all I can think of is that He-Man is going to come back. He-Man is going to come back. He-Man is going to come back. And then he does. And what happens? Spoiler, they kill him off again. So, I mean, it's kind of, that part of it is kind of annoying. But okay, so now the things that's new about the show, what did I like about the show? So, okay, so I mentioned that I did like how they were able to flesh out some of the other characters, bring some of the characters that was pretty much side characters, bring them to the forefront a little, give them a little bit of backstory. Orko, they made him a way more interesting character than he ever was in the old show. But the main character, Teela, she was, while her story was kind of okay, like her journey was okay, I just found her to be pretty annoying. And but it has nothing to do with about the performances of the character. It's basically how the character was written. One thing that they made about Teela was that she was so angry because when He-Man gets killed in the first episode, that's her first time finding out that Prince Adam was He-Man. So she was so angry that others knew that Prince Adam was He-Man and she didn't, that she spent the whole first 5 episodes just bitter and mad and just whining and crying about how nobody told her. It was just so annoying for that to be the case. I mean, you have a man that actually died, you know, and they actually say it on the show. When she confronts Prince Adam towards the end of the 5 episodes, she actually tells him, "You never told me," and he tells her, "I died," you know. But it was just such a annoying, selfish argument, and she just hung on to that for the whole season, you know. Well, I guess not the full season, just 5 episodes, but she just hung on to that on every single episode. It just made, like, while the story was okay and the journey was something that could potentially have been a very interesting journey, I think it was okay. Her just complaining about that all the time and her character and her personality being based on that anger was just so annoying. You know, I wish they would have just had her get over it. You know, it was just so annoying, you know. But yeah, other than that, the show wasn't bad. Now, I wouldn't say it's good. I mean, it's decent. It's a good watch. I wouldn't say, like, you look at that percentage on Rotten Tomato, it's like 94%. And like I said, that is only the percentage of the people that recommended the show. But yeah, that's He-Man. Well, I guess it's not He-Man. It's actually called Masters of the Universe Revelation. It doesn't even have He-Man named nowhere in the title. But yeah, that's on Netflix. And I thought it was okay. I think it's worth a watch. If you were a He-Man fan, I would say watch it. You know, you're going to be upset. Once you realize that this is not a He-Man story, you're going to be upset. My advice to you is to just get over it and just enjoy the story. I have a feeling that he will come back in the second half in part 2 of this series and will become the focal point once again. At least I'm hoping that that's what's going to happen. I kind of feel like the decision that they made to kind of basically make the whole first half of the season void of He-Man, I kind of feel like that was a bad decision. You know, I mean, the storyline shows do this kind of stuff where the main person gets sidelined for a little while, but they don't usually start like this, you know, and I think that was a bad decision, especially if they were only going to release the episodes where He-Man is the secondary character. You know, if they're going to do it that way, I feel like they shouldn't have started the show off like that, you know. But if they don't make He-Man the focus at some point in the second half, it's going to be tough. It won't get a season 2, because it's getting like people are upset about it, and I think it's going to have an effect on where this show goes, you know. may even have an effect on Kevin Smith's career, because he kind of made it worse. And I'm not going to go into it. You can go and search YouTube for videos on it. There's tons of people writing videos about how Kevin Smith lied and this and that. I'm not going to go into it. I'll be honest with you. I'm a Kevin Smith fan. I've been a Kevin Smith fan for years. Probably one of the few black people that is a Kevin Smith fan. But yeah, I've been a Kevin Smith fan. I don't think he's perfect. I think he makes mistakes. But I'm still a fan. So I kind of give him the benefit of the doubt on some things. And I'm hoping that maybe he will get some redemption in the second half of this season. But yeah, that's Masters of the Universe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.